Draining cold oil can leave up to 40% more junk behind. Don't waste your fresh oil. In the next 5 minutes, I'll show you the pre-change checks that squeeze the most life from every quart. Before we move on, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel and like the video. We'll get the engine hot for a cleaner drain. Verify the thermostat so moisture actually evaporates. Clean a dirty MAF that's making your oil fuel diluted. And inspect the PCV system that can slash oil life by 50% when clogged. This is the 15-minute prep most people skip, and it's why their engines sludge early. What if the part quietly killing your oil isn't the filter at all, but a stuck PCV valve that costs less than lunch? That little check valve's whole job is simple. Pull blow-by gases out of the crankcase, keep pressure in check, and route vapors back to the intake so they burn instead of bathing in your oil. When it flows, contaminants leave with manifold vacuum. When it chokes, everything stews in the sump and your oil pays for it fast. Here's where it bites you. A stuck PCV, or soft, collapsing hose, traps fuel mist, water, and acidic vapors. The oil darkens early, not because it's doing its job, but because you've basically turned the crankcase into a smoker. Service life falls off a cliff, and the engine starts to varnish from the inside out. You may not feel a misfire or see a code. You just notice the dipstick looks tired long before it should. Do a quick driveway check before the drain pan comes out. If your PCV is serviceable, pop it out and give it a shake. You should hear the internals rattle. No rattle usually means no flow. With the engine idling, lightly pinch the PCV hose and listen. On a healthy system, the idle should respond because you're altering the vacuum path. Then pull the hose and peek inside. On short-trip cars, you'll often see that mayonnaise foam, condensed moisture whipped with oil vapor, coating the walls. That buildup tells you moisture isn't getting evacuated and the PCV circuit isn't doing enough. A real-world example drives it home. A 2016 Mazda 3 kept turning oil black before 1,000 miles, even with regular synthetic changes. The cause turned out to be a clogged PCV valve and restricted hoses. A new valve and cleaned lines pushed clean oil appearance past 4,000 miles on the next interval with the same commute and same oil. Nothing exotic, just restored flow. There's a chemical story behind that result. When blow-by lingers in the crankcase, it raises the oil's total acid number, adds raw fuel to the mix, and increases moisture load. That cocktail accelerates oxidation, strips away the base reserve, and kicks off sludge formation. You feel it as thicker cold starts, slower drain back, and a darker tint sooner than normal. Your oil's additives are now fighting contaminants instead of protecting bearings. While you're in there, look at the hardware that makes or breaks the system. Check the grommet that seals the valve. Hard, brittle rubber leaks and throws off vacuum. Confirm the check valve orientation. Installed backward, it traps pressure and invites leaks at seals. Trace the lines for soft spots and hairline cracks. Even a $2 split can act like a constant vacuum leak, skew trims and idle, and undermine crankcase scavenging. Lift the oil cap and inspect the valve cover baffle with a flashlight. Heavy varnish means vapors are cooking on and restricting the path. This is also where the next culprit starts to edge in. If your engine is running rich because the MAF is underreporting airflow, you're feeding the crankcase extra fuel that the PCV then has to handle. Both problems stack, and fuel dilution spikes. Fixing one without the other leaves gains on the table. Clean PCV flow often stretches normal oil color longevity again and cuts fuel dilution by a measurable amount on lab reports. You're not guessing. You'll see lower fuel percentages and more stable acidity on the next sample. It's a small part with an outsized impact, and it takes minutes to verify before an oil change. Now that crankcase gases are finally moving out, it's time to stop hammering the oil with excess fuel in the first place. Let's fix the rich condition that's thinning your sump and straining those additives. Why does your fresh oil smell like gasoline a few hundred miles in? Two usual suspects sit inches apart: the MAF in your intake and the thermostat in your cooling system. When either drifts, your oil pays. A dirty MAF underreports airflow. The ECU thinks less air is entering, so it adds more fuel to keep the ratio safe. That extra fuel doesn't all burn. Some scrubs the cylinder walls, thins the oil film, and ends up in the sump as dilution. Now fold in a thermostat that won't close properly. Coolant stays too cool. The ECU hangs onto enrichment longer, and the oil never gets hot enough to evaporate moisture. You get fuel and water working together against viscosity and additives. Fix the MAF first because it's fast and low risk if you do it right. Shut the car off and disconnect the battery to reset trims. Remove the sensor from the housing. Don't spray it while mounted, and only use a dedicated MAF cleaner. Do not touch the wire or film. 10 to 15 light sprays, let it air dry completely, then reinstall. Start the engine and watch trims on a scan tool if you have one. You'll often see short-term fuel trim move closer to zero right away, and long-term trims settle with a short drive. Even without a scanner, you may notice a steadier idle and crisper throttle. Restoring accurate airflow data lets the ECU remove that extra fuel, which means less raw gas washing down and less dilution on your next oil sample. Add a small tie-in that compounds the gain. Running a quality fuel system cleaner before your change can help injector spray patterns. Better atomization promotes more complete burn, especially at idle and light load. Shops that service injectors routinely report lower measured fuel dilution afterward. You don't need to chase perfection here. You're stacking small wins before fresh oil goes in. Now sort the thermostat. A stuck-open unit keeps the coolant too cool and stretches warm-up. Watch live data or the dash gauge on a normal drive. The needle should rise to the middle and hold steady. If it takes too long to climb, drifts down on the highway, or your cabin heat feels weak at idle, the thermostat isn't doing its job. Replacing it is inexpensive and pays off immediately. Once the engine reaches the correct temperature quickly and stays there, enrichment time drops, combustion completes more cleanly, and moisture can finally boil out of the oil during regular driving. Time your oil change for a hot drain. Take a 20 to 30-minute highway drive right before you pull the plug. Hot oil suspends sludge, varnish, and tiny carbon particles that settle when cold. Independent tests claim a hot drain can carry out up to 40% more contaminants than a cold drain. That's not a small margin. Those particles would otherwise stay behind and contaminate your new fill. If you're a short trip driver, give it a week of prep long drive before service. Heat cycles at proper temperature evaporate condensation and light fuel vapors. That cappuccino under the oil cap disappears when you let the system cleanse itself with temperature and time. When you combine a clean MAF with a thermostat that actually hits its target, trims normalize, enrichment ends sooner, and the next oil analysis usually shows lower fuel dilution. The oil keeps its viscosity longer, detergents last, and your drain intervals make sense again. With combustion corrected and heat restored, run one last pre-change safeguard: the quick cooling system pressure test that can expose an early head gasket leak before it ruins your fresh oil. Premium oil can't save an engine that runs rich, runs cool, or can't breathe. Healthy PCV flow, a clean MAF that reports true airflow, and a thermostat that reaches spec protects your new fill better than a fancy label ever will. Before you touch the drain plug, run a 15-minute triage. Verify PCV flow, clean the MAF correctly, confirm the thermostat hits and holds temperature, and add a quick cooling system pressure test to catch a brewing head gasket leak. It's simple insurance that keeps fresh oil from getting trashed on day one. Next, we'll decode used oil reports and show which fix moved your numbers most.